So, Zen fam, art imitates life, life imitates art. What's that got to do with the price of eggs, I hear you ask? Ooh, very topical. Here's the thing. I've spoken before about gaming being in a rut. I'll link the video in the description. We've all discussed about how games don't really seem to be progressing. We seem to be doing roughly the same stuff, just with prettier graphics. We've seen, to some people's mind, a lack of innovation. We've seen a lot of the same stuff come out and out and out and out, over and over and over. I mean, look at a lot of your average sports games. I mean, it's very rare these days that a sports title comes out and actually does something new, does something different. I mean, there's that one from the people that made that thing on the Xbox where you have to keep the beat while you fight. Forget the name of it. And they've got this football game out, and I'm not really a football guy, but apparently it works. It's kind of got like a Sifu-like mechanic, and it's like small teams of players, and it's really frenetic, and you not just place guys on a field and they react. You actually have to feel the rhythm of the game and react to the rhythm of the game. And that sounds interesting and awesome, and it actually sounds like an actual game of football than just like placing characters around and making sure people are in particular places to act in particular ways. I mean, it's more team management with a little bit of direct input, whilst this new game seems to be actually playing the game, for want of a better term. And there's just little bits and pieces around here, and there's some indie companies there, but a lot of gaming these days seems to very much be paint by numbers. There's not a lot of development, there's not a lot of interesting thought. Now, some of that can be down to the case that, like, when 3D gaming first got going on, like, the original PlayStation and such, that, like, it was all new. It was like, how do we make this work? How do we make everybody understand that this is the thing for this is the thing for that? And slowly but surely we created a form of standardization where we all understood particular actions would garner particular results from game to game to game, or at least from genre of game to genre of game to genre of game. And that was good, and that was useful, and that helped push things on. But over time, we've seen that, like, games have become very, very similar to each other. Even when they have radically different art styles or have different settings. I mean, you only have to look at the ubification of some games, where you go to the map, you go to an area, you defeat some guys, you open up the area those guys are in, that area now becomes yours, you can fast travel to it, you might get some weapons, or you'll definitely pick up some collectibles, and you go on to the next area, rinse and repeat. Now, there's nothing wrong with that. Lord knows I played more than my fair share of Ubisoft games and Ubisoft Alike games. I mean, I love being open world, so sue me. But I think this is actually something of a trend through everything. Because as I said, art imitates life and life imitates art. And I think it's interesting to note that if you look at movies, you look at TV, you look at music, you look at clothing, everything is becoming the same. Like, I mean, if you go to out clothes shopping these days, okay, now I don't do it very much, but I see what people are wearing. I mean, I'm out in the world, I see people, I look at humans, okay, and what I've noticed more and more and more is there doesn't really seem to be much of a change in clothing, apart from cycles of what's popular and what isn't popular and what was once popular and what was once not popular. And a lot of the time, all that really seems to be changing in clothing over these last 10, 15, 20 years is the colour choices. Sometimes patterns, but I mean the cut and the shape of trousers, the cut and the shape of tops, the cut and the shape of dresses, and yada 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 yada. It's all pretty much the same. In fact, nowadays, you go looking around at a lot of people, even regardless if they're into particular music genres or something, they're all basically wearing the same kind of stuff. Especially if they're not of like alternative culture, like someone like me, then they all kind of look the same. And it's sort of like they're turning the world to beige. Is it the same people doing the same things, buying the same clothes, buying the same food, watching the same entertainment, with the same outcomes? I mean, when was the last time you watched a movie that actually surprised you? How many times have you been sat there watching a movie in the cinema or at home on a DVD or Netflix or whatever, however you choose to watch a movie, like maybe on your phone on your commute to work, who knows? You know, obviously on the bus, not driving a car. You know, but when you were actually surprised by what happened, and you weren't thinking to yourself, "Oh, I care what that person's going to do next," and then they go and do it. Something is not right. Our creativity seems to be going away. And it's not like there are uncreative people. Lord no. I mean, we've all played awesome games. We've all seen awesome movies. We all see interesting people wearing interesting clothes, but it does seem to be a thing that's less and less prevalent. Now, some people are going to blame AI for this. I don't blame AI for this particular phenomenon, because the current trend of AI has only been in the last, 3 years, roughly speaking? And it's only getting worse, of course. But the fact of the matter is, it ain't helping. Studies have been done where they've actually given people a test, and they gave them the same test. They had 3 control groups. One which was allowed to use AI to do the test. One which was allowed to read stuff from Google to do the test, and the other one had to just do the test just straight from the dome. People who did the test straight from the dome actually did better creatively in the test than the people who were doing the strict AI version. And the people who did the middle tier, they were in the middle. It couldn't have been clearer. It's like, not only is our creativity and our individuality seeming to be taken away, to some extent we also seem to be giving it away. I mean, like gaming gods, we have creators like Hideo Kojima. I mean, I'm going to be playing Death Stranding later on tonight when it finally releases, and it's going to be awesome. I feel it in my bones. It's going to be good. But there are so many games out there right now. You look at them and just go, yeah, nah. And it's a shame. There's less and less games where you can really get excited. And I think that might be one of the major problems of this particular gaming generation. There's nothing to really get excited about. I don't think it's the case that there is no development. I think people don't know where to develop to, because it's a bit of a chicken and egg situation here. When presented with completely radically new ideas of how to play a video game, a lot of gamers, especially mainstream gamers, don't buy those video games. The reason they don't buy those video games is because they don't understand what the game is, which is part of the reason I think why VR has never truly cracked on the way that I think it should. And I think it should because VR is awesome. But VR often tends to be a very different experience, controlled in a different way. And humans, we are creatures of habit. We like to follow patterns that we've followed before. So I think our own humanity, our own sense of security, gets in the way of us having new experiences. In fact, as you get older, for a lot of people, most humans on this planet, as they get older, they seek the familiar. They seek the comfortable. They seek the thing that they had before when they were younger. I try to look for new stuff. I'm like 50. I'm still hunting for new music. I'm still hunting for new experiences. I don't get to do them as much because I've got to job. I've got to be family. And I'm trying to play my games and I'm trying to make content for you guys. But, I do what I can, where I can, how I can. But it is interesting to note that, as everything becomes the same and everything is recycled and everything costs more, so people become more risk averse and companies become risk averse because they don't want to lose the money by developing something that people might not buy. And people might not buy, so then they don't make. But then that means that what they don't make becomes the stuff they do make, and what they do make is the stuff they've already made. And thus we end up at what I'm going to coin as the in-Beigification. We've all heard about the itification. I'm not going to say that because, as you know, I don't swear on this channel. But you know the phrase I'm talking about. So the in-Beigification. We need to push back against that, boys and girls. And everything in between. We need creativity. We need strange games. We need the indie space to come up and bring out games that make us go, what? I mean, seriously, in the current state of games right now, could you imagine somebody making something like Murasaki Baby? Or Roku Loco? No! They would be laughed out of the pitch meeting. But, I want to make a game where a person lands on an alien planet, has a series of events happen to them that means they have to kill a bunch of things. Rubber stamp. And don't get me wrong, I have killed many a thing. I have taken many a territory. I have upgraded many a weapon. In first and first person, it's all good. But this is supposed to be the most creative, the most expressive media form that's ever existed. And that concept, that potential, these days in 2025, feels often like it's being squandered. I mean, they're already starting to talk about PlayStation 6, and who knows what's going on with Xbox. One day I'm hearing about how they're doing this family of systems that are all going to be interconnected, and then there's going to be like a Facebook integrated VR headset that's going to be Microsoft enabled with all the Xbox games. And then I hear about how Microsoft is pulling Xbox out of Asia and also out of Europe. Never thought I'd hear that. I mean, Europe and North America are the two biggest selling territories for Xbox and Xbox games, but they're not selling games, and they're mostly only doing through Game Pass. And because numbers are dwindling on Xbox and Game Pass, that means that there's less people contributing to the pot of funds that go to pay the developers to boot their games onto Game Pass, which means that it's an unsustainable model. So very soon the best deal in gaming is probably not going to exist. It's going to become so expensive, it will no longer be the best deal in gaming. It'll be, here's some gaming. It's like, an Xbox does genuinely seem to be in trouble. Its sales are down, which is a shame because, one, I do actually think there's a lot of promise in Xbox games. There's a lot of promise in the Xbox family of developers, and it's a good bit of kit. Admittedly, I like my symmetrical sticks, but it is a solid bit of kit. And crucially, and I say this as a long-time Sony person who's been here since day one of PlayStation, our original first SKU PlayStation with all the ports on the back. I mean, you've all heard my PlayStation story, any of you that have been around long enough, of how I got my PlayStation. Microsoft keeps PlayStation on the level because they're direct competition. They keep them honest, and Sony does the same for Microsoft. If it just comes down to just Nintendo and Sony, I'm not sure what kind of future that gives us. It could be a good future, but I don't know. I really just don't think so. I think there's going to be a lot of consolidation. However, it does mean that I think Microsoft will probably start to sell off a lot of those companies that it bought for Xbox division. And maybe some of those companies can be bought by other outlets, not just Sony, not just Nintendo, but hopefully by other gaming bodies, and maybe spread the creativity, spread the money around. Now it does mean, of course, in the meantime there's going to be layoffs. But one would hope that enough of these game developers who worked for enough of these companies come together and pool their resources and make new companies who can make really new games and maybe dig us out of this Beigification. So, as always, I remain an optimist and hope that we see something newer, better, more interesting, but I'm not gonna hold my breath. But obviously I would love to know what you think down there in that comment section. And please remember to share this, like this, and obviously if you're new, hit that subscribe, because I'm really trying to push these numbers, guys. I'm trying to make my way to 2k, and that would be awesome. Anyway, you know the drill. Hashtag support Scottish YouTubers, and of course, as always, aye, nae bother.